Please do. So the only thing you'll be bringing up later.
Yikes.
You open the door with the OnlyFans thing before the air.
Yeah, well, I like that we're opening up with OnlyFans, so people have no idea what we're talking about. There'll be a house of mystery. Wait, that's DC, right?
What's in the box?
Where's Mark when we need it?
Nice. Well, Mark is actually, I'll get to where he is in a minute, but so welcome, one and all, to the Falcon and Winter Soldier mission report, the penultimate mission report for episode 5. What was the name of this? I didn't write down the name of this episode. Truth.
Oh,
right.
One word, huh? Okay.
Yeah. Is the next one to be Justice in the American Way? I don't know.
We'll
but
run all the episodes on that one then, yeah.
Well, so there's a lot to talk about. This is, again, the longest episode. They keep creeping up in the runtime, so there's a lot to unpack here, as the kids say. And it's got our first post-credit stinger, which is exciting. I'm kind of jazzed to talk about that. But before we get into it, I want to introduce everybody we have here. We've got Mike Crowley of You'll Probably Agree rejoining us. Hey, how you doing, Mike?
Hi.
Yeah. All right. We got Don Shanahan of 25 Years Later. Every movie has a lesson, and Cinephile Hissy Fit.
Yes,
I started listening to the latest episode just before we got on here, so I'm just at the dawn of hearing you defend Zack Snyder's Justice League.
I did give it a high enough grade to defend. Yeah.
Wow. Hey, I did too. I gave it 3.5 out of 4.
Well, I no blasphemers here on the show, so I'm going to have to let you guys out, and I'll just hang out with David, talking about this show. No, but yeah, I did catch. I cut it off right when you were talking about the difference between Henry Cavill and Christopher Reeve, and I loved your turn of phrase. Something about Christopher Reeve made all the moms smile, and I thought that was just a perfect way to encapsulate one of the things that made that such a special representation.
Yeah,
he's a sweetie.
He's a sweetie.
Yeah. So, and then there's David rifling through his comic boxes. David Fowley of Keeping It Real. So welcome. 2 bits of business before you really get into it. Mark Krawczyk from the Spoiler Room could not be here tonight. He is participating in the world's largest trivia contest. That is what it's called. And it's a huge event in Wisconsin. It's been going on. I think this is the 51st year that they've done it. If I have this wrong, Mark, correct me later, but I think it was supposed to be 52, but there was, COVID last year. So it's running all weekend. He's participating in it. I will leave a link in the description for people to tune in to check it out. It's actually streaming, so it sounds really cool. Hey. And then Emmanuel Noisette of Eman's Movie Reviews, once again, is not able to join us. However, he is here with us in spirit, and he's been blowing up this week with his petition. I don't think we've talked about that on this show, but it is relevant. He has signed a petition or created a petition on change.org to recast T'Challa after the passing of Chadwick Boseman for Black Panther 2, which is gearing up to become a thing. It's supposed to come out next year, so the window is closing. But it's got, right now, it's, I think, just under 23,000 signatures. It was just like over 1,000, I think, a few days ago. But then he got on Comic Book Resources and People Magazine and The Root, although The Root had sort of a negative piece to write about that, but as he tweeted, all publicity is good publicity. Hey, So I'll leave a link to that change.org petition in the bottom. It's a really cool cause. He has a lot of detail and context in there. He kind of turned me around, because initially I was like, well, just have a different character in that role, but he's like, no, this is important that T'Challa live on, and I'm totally on board with that. So check that out for sure. He was also on Popcorn Planet earlier this week with Andy Signor. So that was a great show to watch as well. Let's see. So we already have Joe Jordan rejoining us in the chat. This is an open invitation for everyone, if you're watching this live, to jump into the chat and hang out. We'll be here for the next hour talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier, I promise. But let's kick things off with Joe's comment. I have a feeling the final episode will be longer than usual. Not sure how they're going to conclude it all. Then again, some issues may go unresolved for the time being. Amen. Because this was an odd breather episode.
Yes.
We came back to the States after all this international intrigue. This feels like the and I never really watched Game of Thrones, so correct me if I'm talking out of turn, but it seemed like the second to last episode of any season was like the big everything goes down, and then they have kind of a cooling off episode that, you know, duns into the next season. This felt like that, but we still have the final episode to go.
Imagine if this was the last episode.
Oh man,
if they hung you like this, you know, old school style.
You know, and that's
if this was 80s television, this would be the finale episode.
Yeah.
This would be, you know, Jean-Luc Picard captured by the Borg and William Riker saying, you know, Lieutenant Worf, fire. Oh, one of the all-time great cliffhangers. So this, and now that you mention that, this really does feel like the season cliffhanger. So I don't know if next week is going to be a disappointment or if they're really going to blow our minds with something, but I'm open to all of it. Mike, as the returning guest, do you want to synopsize this episode?
Sure, I'd love to. I guess everyone sort of faces their own inner demons and their own pasts, and it's sort of a reflective episode where it starts off with a huge bang. I don't want to spoil it. Should I say what?
Look, wait, hold on a second. Yeah, I'm going to put this on much like last week because there's so much to talk about here.
Like, I think you have to start spoiling the first 5 minutes of the episode. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So
it's a big deal. Yeah.
Immediately we get to the repercussions of John Walker. Yeah. Of him killing the guy who killed his friend Lamar, and then next thing you know, he's basically someone who turns into a sympathetic figure that I think we all agreed on. Like we do think that until the very end post-credit scene where it seems like they're establishing him as a villain. And I just thought, oh, I liked where they were going, you know?
You know, and I think to that point, because we're going to get deep into to John Walker, I think, in this discussion, you know, I think there's still a lot of great places for him to go. I don't know if he's going to have a redemption arc or what, but, you know, the whole cliche about villains is they always think they're the heroes of their own stories. They don't realize that they have actually turned evil in a lot lot of cases. And I don't know that John Walker is turning evil. I think as an extension of what we talked about last week with, him having his shield kind of knocked away from him by the Dora Milaje and just humiliated in front of everyone. The humiliation keeps compounding and he keeps trying to do what he feels is the right thing, but everyone's rejecting him. So he's just like, he's gonna lash out. I think they could take that to some really cool places. I hope it's not a one and done type of thing. It'd be really interesting if he's just not brought up next episode, because there are plenty of other threats for Bucky and Sam to deal with. Maybe John Walker just comes back in the middle of next season as the new threat. They'll establish some other big bad guy for them to take down. I don't know. Could go anywhere. But sorry, Mike, go ahead. I got off on a tangent.
No, that's okay. It's kind of one of those episodes where there's just so much to digest. Because where we felt like the last two episodes were kind of slow and nothing was happening, I'm going, well, this is Marvel. And when it happens, it happens. And pretty much they laid everything down on the table. John Walker is the villain. Sam, reluctantly tries to live a peaceful life, but can't, and finally takes the shield and he opens up a chest. They don't reveal what it is in the end, but I think we all know what's inside of there. And I think it's basically
don't say
anything. We're in spoiler territory. We can guess. I was expecting.
I think it's Gwyneth Paltrow's head.
I think it's a glowing soul of Marcellus Wallace.
I was damn it, Don. I was going to say
Kevin Spacey.
The Cosmic Cube.
Well, because let's jump a bit ahead to that, because in this epic fight, which is sort of it's almost a callback to Captain America: Civil War, with the three fighting factions. Specifically the three people fighting for control of this mantle, essentially. But I think they've learned a lot of lessons in terms of fight choreography and cool things that you can do in a fight, especially Sam's jetpack comes back into play, which I love to see. It ends with John Walker, now that he's got super soldier serums coursing through his veins, ripping Sam's wings off in this horrific display. So at the end, when he gets this package, this briefcase from Bucky on behalf of the Wakandans, we don't see what's in it, but I'm thinking it's either new wings. Would they make him a Captain America outfit?
Well,
we've seen the action figures, have we not? Come on.
Well, because that brings up, that brings up some contra. Well, I know what the comics are, but we're not in comics territory anymore necessarily. But because of the conversation that he has, that Sam has later in the episode with Isaiah Bradley, which gets very deep and very dark, where Isaiah Bradley essentially says, I had it written down here. Let me see if I can dig it up. Oh, they will never let a black man be Captain America. And even if they did, no self-respecting black man would ever want to be. So that's why I'm questioning. I think it would be cool if the Dora Milaje, the Wakandans, because that's the enforcement arm, the Wakandan scientists, in coming up with a new gear for Sam, if they would make him a Captain America outfit, because they don't necessarily share Isaiah Bradley's perspective. They also understand what Sam is and what he wants to represent. So that'd be very interesting if they made him the Captain America outfit, because what does he do then?
That would be a good way to introduce it. I mean, to introduce the whole, Captain America. Sam Wilson as Captain America obviously was in the comics, as you see, but that was for a totally different reason in the comics. So it's always interesting to see how live action would divert and they have to go a different route. So for it to come through Wakanda would be interesting. It's kind of like how Peter Parker got his suit from Stark. It's like, okay, whatever. But honestly, we don't really know what's in the box yet. I think we all assume that it's either new wings or a new suit, a new Captain America suit for him with wings. Or it could be a new Redbird. Who knows? I
forgot about that. Yeah.
I have my problem with this is that was the last thing that Barnes said to AO is like, hey, before you leave, one more favor. Can you do something for me? Well, what's the time frame between the time that she does that and then he arrives with a box and gives it to Sam? It's like, did you pre-order this or what? It's like, did they already have it made or whatever it is?
Well,
we'll find out next week. But
that's my thought, is that maybe if it is some kind of, maybe it's not specifically a Captain America suit. It's a Wakandan like battle armor that they could put a paint job on or something.
Right.
Some kind of colored panels or something. Because that's a great point. There was kind of a compacted time frame in this. It seemed like, but my question, going back to something that happened last week, which we talked about, when Bucky was literally disarmed during that conflict, I understand the Wakandans are generally on the same side as what's left of the Avengers, but do we trust them to give Captain America his suit?
Yeah, I mean,
is there some kind of a kill switch within that, like that they could have? They built that into Bucky, and he was apparently, he was the White Tiger or whatever.
They seem to hold their end of the bargain with everything. I mean, they helped save the world from the snap. I mean, I trust them. Why not? Yeah.
Well, that could also be more in line with self-interest. I'm not trying to assign any kind of dark motives to the Wakandans. I'm just saying that thing with Bucky last week felt like it was really setting something up for the future. Like, we're helping you guys, but as long as you're relying on our tech, we've got to protect ourselves first.
Fair question.
It puts things into context, and in this episode, we see a lot more about. We learn a lot more about how Bucky is becoming more a man than a machine. When we first see him in Winter Soldier, he's just, he's a machine, and he's totally, programmed and everything. And now he's the episode before this, we saw the trial by fire 6 years ago. He was deprogrammed. In this one, there's a line in, I think, Louisiana where he's like, sometimes I'm right-handed, so sometimes I forget that I have this, you know.
Yes, that was a great line.
So what that means, though, is that he is mostly a man now, and not just this machine. And so I think, you know, like I said, I think that Wakandan thing puts things into context. I would rather see Sam get a super suit from the Wakandans than the U.S. government.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Because he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. Because I guarantee the feds would put something, put something there to keep him on a leash, especially with what they saw happen with John Walker. Now, David, you held up that comic. I have not read the arc where Sam becomes Cap. Does he have the wings in that, or is it completely okay? So it's him.
He uses the wings. I should have brought should have pulled out some other covers too, but he uses the wings. It's a cool approach because he's still kind of Falcon, but he goes by Captain America, but he uses his wings, so he's a flying Captain America, and he's got a shield and everything. It's a cool story because it's really where it covers, like, okay, if this really did happen, there would be an uproar that not only is this not Steve Rogers, because in the comics Steve Rogers is an old man now. Not only is it not him, but it's a black Captain America. And how is that being received? And whereas before Steve Rogers pretty much, although, and people complain that the show is getting political. Well, it's Captain America. He wears a flag.
Yeah,
it is political. It's patriotic. Yeah. It's political.
Winter Soldier was political.
You can't get around that stuff. I mean, issue number 1, he was fighting racism by hitting Hitler. So
here's the thing: that the comments about the politics in the show is not about it's Captain America. It's specifically dealing with the issues of race and how it's presented. Sure. And this is something I called out earlier, and it kind of came back as a minor concern because I trust the show, and I think Sam is the voice of the balance in this show. Because one thing I've noticed is the world that they've created in this particular corner of Marvel all has one point of view in terms of race, which is, it's terrible being a black man in America. Everybody's racist and things are like awful all around. The government's out to screw everybody and taint us with their, the fake tetanus shots and all that. Great story. But there's no sense of balance from the characters that we get. When Isaiah Bradley says, they're never going to let a black man be Captain America, Sam, sits there and he absorbs what he's saying. I think he understands his perspective because he comes from a different era completely, but there's no counter to it. There's no sure, why couldn't they be? I could take up the mantle. I could become Captain America. Yeah, there's going to be, we talked about this, I think, a couple of weeks ago. There's going to be people who don't like it, but there's going to be a lot of people that really do, because especially today, we live in a more diversity accepting country. We have our share of problems still, but it's, for God's sakes, we had a twice elected black president. That didn't happen in the Marvel universe. But then again, that also gets into the question of what are the politics of this reality? It's like they're trying to create a show that comments on race issues in America, but this is a different America than what we've actually experienced from what we can tell.
And that was addressed even last episode in the cemetery when she was talking to her right-hand guy who John Walker killed. And he was not only saying that he was a fan of Cap, when he was a kid, but also that the world needs to see a leader that they can relate to, that they can recognize, and the world, and he also addresses, like you just said, the world has changed. It's gotten more complicated. And so that does kind of hint at, maybe this show is going to give Sam the shield and give him in this episode, he's training like a madman. And that was just crazy just to think that shield pretty much could have taken his head off during the whole training montage. And so if next episode they don't give him the shield and Sam doesn't become Captain America, it would be kind of hard to believe considering where they went in this episode.
Yeah.
Or, they could also leave it where, because the show is The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they keep talking about how Steve is gone. It's sounding more and more like he's dead, but I feel like that could be a red herring to, he's just unreachable, or maybe he's
I agree.
quantum leaping through time or something.
Yeah.
I think he's unreachable.
If they could very well just come to the conclusion that, we don't need a Captain America anymore. We've got, this is that character, that shield is more trouble than it's worth, because we've also got a corrupt, a really corrupt government and world agencies. So I think that'd be interesting too, is if he just kind of becomes his own person. I mean, break with the comics, have Sam Wilson not become Captain America, have him just be the Falcon, and have that be the new symbol for American hope. One thing that you brought up, David, that conversation in the cemetery last week, the guy who got killed started off that conversation by saying how he grew up admiring Captain America, but now they need someone who is more representative of the people. That would be an interesting angle. What if there is a new black Captain America who, the rebellious forces who are fighting against the American, the American government and this global resource initiative or whatever. What if they're like, oh my God, they've got someone who looks like us and has had similar struggles? Could that be enough to turn people away from that cause and say, maybe we should give this guy a listen?
I think you're close to that anyway, because of the way that Carly and Sam have, other than being interrupted, gotten to a level where they understand and respect each other. Where I'll be the guy that says it. I know we've got this hostage situation in New York and all that, and I know you've got an escalating bad woman and all that, but I don't think we're going to get the largest fireworks in the world for a conclusion, and I'm very okay with that. I think you're going to get tension. Yeah. You're going to get obviously some intervention and tension, but I think you're going to get a big de-escalation that isn't super duper tragic, in a good way.
Yeah, I don't think the finale of this show is going to be. It's not going to be like WandaVision, where it's just like a bunch of special effects and explosions.
Not a chance.
Like maybe they'll have like a slight sequence like that, but this show seems to, I don't know, it seems to have a little more meat to it. Because like WandaVision, beyond like kind of the surface value of the trauma that Wanda went through, there's really nothing more to say or explore with that. And this one, it seems like, I mean, you could, absolutely, you always could. But I mean, for me, with my level of interest, it's kind of like it peaked at that point. With this one, I like how each of the characters are naturally, slowly developing. Aside from Sharon Carter, when they cut to her, it's just like, yeah, whatever, I don't care, get out of here. But it's just like, honestly, it's just not interesting. And I like how Sam and Bucky are actually like becoming friends in a believable way, where it doesn't seem like a fake screenplay. Although there are a couple of exchanges at the end when they're walking side by side. It's like, I'm still not your friend. Yeah, I know. Whatever. We're colleagues. It's just like, all right.
There's still Rocky and Apollo out there, right?
Yeah.
Well, and did they have to have Bucky start flirting with Sarah, Sam's sister? Because I'm like,
was that really a flirt though? I mean,
that was dude. They kept like making eyes at each other and like little exchanges, because it wasn't just the one scene. There was like 2 or 3 scenes where they were doing that.
The Sebastian thirsty women haven't had their moment since the date at the beginning of the first episode. So you had to
never use the phrase Sebastian thirsty women around me again.
Okay.
Lord. But no,
Sebastian Shaw.
And Sebastian Shaw.
We're just
that's what
lucky
they
he
need.
hasn't taken his shirt off yet. I'm just saying.
Oh, Stan. I'm
It's
sorry.
coming.
Not Shaw.
that's for OnlyFans.
The callback. No, so Mike, you weren't. I saw your reaction to last week's episode. You weren't able to join us because it was kind of a love fest for episode 4. You weren't knocked out by it. You thought that was kind of filler, right?
Not like filler, just like some like for most of it was good, but then I don't know, there were just a lot of parts where I felt like I've seen this scene done before. Yeah. Okay. And I was like, okay, we get what they're saying. Like, let's move on.
You've seen a homicidal Captain America before?
Huh?
You've seen a homicidal Captain America before?
Oh, not that part. I mean, like everything leading up to the like Captain America going crazy. Like you could have just taken everything out of the episode and just put in those last 10 minutes, and that's all I could have seen. Like the rest of it, I just didn't really care.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
the Dora Milaje taking out Cap. That's all right.
Nah.
The conversation between Sam and Carly.
Yeah.
That's a good one. But that's been done before.
That was good. When they were doing that stuff, that was good. But then at a certain point, they just kind of kept regurgitating. Like midway through the episode, it just felt like they were filling in gaps of time. Okay. So it has a great beginning. I like how there was a dichotomy between the new Captain America and Sam, and he wants to come in hot and take care of the hostage situation. The other guy doesn't, and we see how, for once in a comic book movie or any kind of media, when they're negotiating with someone, like, it's working and they're listening. And then when he screws it up, that's great. But everything before that, like somewhere in between, I just didn't care. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well,
I guess he doesn't like Turkish delight.
Yeah.
Well, he's more of a chocolate man. It's all right. Mike's got Mike has a deep dark chocolate layer. All right.
Rapper's delight. No, let's talk briefly about our MVP, who he's going to be back.
Isaiah Bradley.
Zemo gets taken into custody by the Dora Milaje. Now they said they were going to take him to the raft. Isn't that the giant sea-bound prison that like they locked up the Avengers in?
Overseen by William Hurt's Thunderbolt Ross.
Okay.
But how, I mean, I know Wakanda has jurisdiction wherever Wakanda goes, and I get all that, but like, I'm surprised that's the place they're taking him. Like, I figured some place that's not controlled by the U.S. government would be far stronger and better.
Think about this, guys. Wakanda. Think about this. I don't. They wouldn't have name dropped that by accident. It was on purpose.
I agree.
But okay, so the comic Thunderbolts, I think, was big in the 90s and early 2000s. It was all about a bunch of supervillains who were posing as heroes, and the leader of that was Baron Zemo. Well, he's being taken to the raft. Thunderbolts the group was named after Thunderbolt Ross, right? So, and he's the guy who's overseeing the raft.
Ooh,
so could we have a Thunderbolts Disney series? And basically Zemo picks the litter of all the supervillains in the raft and forms a team and says, hey, we're going to play good guys and we're going to be sent out on missions.
I think that would be awesome, especially if the Suicide Squad comes out and does terribly, and Disney is like, no, here's how you do it, right?
Yeah. They do it again.
I'm sorry. Again. I know we've got some DC fans listening and watching.
I'm excited for James Gunn's movie.
I'm not excited for the Suicide Squad at all.
Yeah,
it just looks like a bunch of flashy, goofy nonsense.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, he does well, but it just feels like there's 85 characters in this movie, and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's fine. Yeah. I'm fully willing to be surprised and delighted because I'm a James Gunn fan as well.
But that's
not necessarily of his Twitter history, but his movies, sure.
Yeah,
right.
That's what it would take to do a Thunderbolts thing, though, is if you draw that out in a TV show where Zemo, you have Zemo taking on Ross in a battle of, psychological wills while you like you said, you recruit some guys nearby and hear those backstories.
It's perfect. Tom Hardy's Venom could show up and be part of the Thunderbolts.
Oh,
no. That's all right. So
no.
That deal. They got that. That's why they're doing the whole Spider-Verse with Spider-Man 3. They're tying the companies together.
I see your Tom Hardy and I raise you a Woody Harrelson Cletus Cassidy, because that's going to be a dog shit mess in a minute.
Just the fact that his name's Cletus.
Just the fact that it's 68-year-old Woody Harrelson. Get him on.
The one, you guys are talking to the one Venom fan, the Venom the movie, not even the character, the one Venom the movie fan on this stream. So there's nothing. Hello. Yeah, I know it's a problem. But no, getting back to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I love that they spend. They're going to come back. This is sort of the calm before the storm episode. there's this great building a boat community
montage
thing. There's a bunch of, this is the Rocky IV of this series, because it's montage heavy. Jesus. But I did like the working on the boat and kind of rebuilding things. It just shows that these guys can't just come home and put their bodies on ice for 3 weeks from all the bruises and stuff. They have to get back to work and be productive and help people, even when they're not being super heroic. My one question here, it's a big problem with the boat because it's not going to sell because it's a piece of junk. So, and Sarah's like, there's nothing we can do. And then Sam's like, let me try something. He basically calls up everybody in the neighborhood and says, hey, remember our parents, how they helped you out? Come help us with the boat. She didn't think to do that at all. Cause there's maybe, but she didn't even put up a fight. Like, you shouldn't have called them. It's like, I don't know. It just felt a little bit convenient. Like, if they're in danger of losing the boat.
Show up. That's why.
You're gonna say no to the Falcon?
No, I'm just saying, why didn't she do that? I don't think that they would have turned her down. Wow. and also, I gotta say, that was a little bit of an interesting surprise. Like, Bucky, the Winter Soldier, sneaks onto the dock and lifts this heavy crate or something. Like, no one notices he's there until hey, look, it's time for a wacky reveal.
That brought up a big question for me too. Is this? I don't know why it took this episode for me to think, how are these two guys flying around the globe?
Well, Sam's got wings. No, I've
had.
Yes.
So it's like Bucky arrives and he's like, all right, I gotta catch my flight in the morning. Let me help you out here. Like,
he used a Wayne Check teleporter. I know that's a different universe, but
how's he go through security with his arm? And where did they get the money for flights? I don't know.
Maybe he had a secret cache. Well, no,
he's got some of that Shield money or whatever company they work for.
Got some of that Zemo Baron money.
Yeah. Because they said they don't make money from that in episode 1. That's right.
But let me ask you guys this: Shield didn't pay anything, or Tony Stark didn't pay anything to the Avengers. Do you think Hydra set Bucky up with some kind of account, or
maybe?
I bet as a hitman, he's got that Swedish bank, that Caribbean bank account that holds all the
dirty money,
all the take. Oh yeah,
all the blood money from decades of just whacking people
and
all
why
over
not?
the world.
Maybe Zemo
for a better thing.
Maybe Zemo gave them some bags of cash and
some bags of cash.
Help me out with this, because when Zemo, right before he gets taken into custody, he says that he scratched his name out of Bucky's book.
Yeah,
was that? I missed the significance of that. Was that so that he wouldn't have to apologize, or is it so that he wouldn't end up getting killed at some point?
A bit of both. Like this, he felt Zemo kind of took it on his own to felt like. All of what was done were the amends between those two, or he just took it as that, and I think, it's clear that Bucky took it as that as well. So, because I pulled that trigger without killing him. So
that was a nice line though. Yeah, when talking about Bucky's therapy and Zemo's calling him on his nonsense, he's like, "You haven't been making amends; you've been avenging." Or maybe I have it. It was this whole play on words. Yeah,
that was Sam talking to Bucky, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that was
That was.
I thought Zemo says
that was in Louisiana.
He's got in their convo though.
Right.
He's got something though. You're right. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I forget what he said at the Sokovia Memorial. I forget what he was saying there, but it was. Interesting.
It was like this. Some of you still there, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like you'll always be one of those things, right?
Yeah. Now, going back to that, Zemo seemed kind of surprised that he was being taken into custody, that Dora Milaje showed up. Do you think he went with them so willingly because A, he knew he was not going to survive a fight, or B, because he thought maybe there's an opportunity here in the raft with the world's most dangerous super criminals, or he was just like, I've been sitting here waiting for 5 years in a cell. I got out, I did my thing, I'm tired, I just I'll figure something out later. Because I was expecting some kind of conflict, but he was like, I'll be back.
Zemo's always up to something. He's gonna come back in some big way.
He's not like there's times in the comics where he's like a super irate, hysterical kind of villain, but he's usually like pretty calm and cool. So I think that look, he's not in prison right now, so I think he's enjoying his freedom, and if he can be escorted to the raft by these 3 lovely warriors, then great. But I think you're onto something. He's probably just thinking, well, let's see what this next opportunity is going to bring. Yeah, I just hope he still talks like this, like a very serious Puss in Boots.
I love Daniel Bruhl. Now, here's a question. Going back to me not trusting the Dora Milaje, does he make it to to the raft? Or was that their cover story for Bucky?
Wakandan justice. Yeah.
Right. Like
that'll be
Bucky's gonna radio into Thunderbolt Ross and be like, so did he get there okay? Or how's he doing? He's like, what do you mean? He hasn't shown up. What do you mean he was supposed to be here?
Yeah.
So that brings up a thought that I had, is there's still a lot to deal with in the final episode. And going back to what Joe said, how are you going to wrap everything up? There's got to be still some loose ends that aren't going to be dealt with.
I think they've closed enough of them to not be too numerous. Like, I bet we don't see Zemo and Wakanda again. I think that's done. I think I think you're done in Louisiana. Are you like that was enough? Yeah. I think you're done with Isaiah Bradley. I think that was enough. And if we had all of those things to still close at the same time that we close Carly, the GRC, Power Broker, Sharon, like we've got enough, but they trimmed a good 3 limbs of the tree just fine in this episode.
They really got to bring
the mention of them,
They really got to bring Sharon a little bit more to the head of things, here with the last episode.
Because she's the power broker.
Who do you think's going to show up on all those screens? Because the GRC conference, went dark and then it turned red and then all the screens are flickering. So you just know someone's going to pop up there.
Yeah, it's got to be Carly more than it can be George St. Pierre playing Batroc Leaper. So
he's alive. I thought he blew up.
He fell out in the first episode. He fell out of the helicopter. He got blown out.
But it's not like he fell out of the helicopter 10 feet from the ground. I mean, they were high up.
That's why he's called suit on, Leaper. Right? He's the Leaper.
I guess, but as you're falling, is he super powered or is he just like really good at parkour? What's his deal?
Really good at parkour. But I think he had a parachute on too.
Okay, the squirrel suit thing. Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. It was fun to see Batroc back, but I was like, what are we doing here? Now here's something I wrote down because they spend so much time on it in this episode, and especially because nothing happens in this episode. I'm worried about that boat. You said we're not going. Yes, you said we're not going back to Louisiana.
I mean, I know Carly threatened
just the whole rest of family.
Yes. So I don't know that they would go there because this would be really like Godfather levels of dark. But what if at the end or the climax of the episode, everything's gone to hell. They think they've won, but Carly escapes and, she's got some kind of a vendetta against Sam because he becomes Captain America, everything that she hates. And she's like, well, you took away everything from me, your country, whatever you represent. I'm going to take everything from you. And hopefully Sarah and the kids are not on that boat. I don't think they blow up the kids. I do think because this is Disney Marvel that they would kill the parent. Dad's already out of the picture. Yeah. Mom could just like go up in flames, thus giving Sam the nice like no and cut to black and here we go for season 2.
And if you ever know the history of Disney, they love to like turn like children into foster children all the time. Always Cinderella, Bambi,
Yeah, that's on the list of possibilities for sure.
Yeah. You said Cinderella. Now I'm thinking about cinders, and I definitely think that boat's going to blow up. Anyway, and again, I don't want to see that happen. I like Sarah. Like I like her dynamic with Bucky, even though I was kind of giving him crap about it. But I just want to see. I want to see more chill out episodes with Sam and just this quiet, trying to have a quiet life, even if it's just between missions.
Yeah,
that's become some of my favorite stuff in the show.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, Bucky. Go ahead. This is my what?
Oh, okay. This is my favorite episode because this was the absolute peak of the character development we've gotten. Like now I know it's the training montages and the cute stuff in between and the flirtatious and all that, but like to have this show follow WandaVision with its own different brand of trauma with two different with male figures, and how often do we really get to see legitimate males addressing trauma in a fair and exposing and personalized way. And that, I mean, we got little semi-humorous teasers of that with the therapy stuff that opened the season, but to have this be, and I know it was still very Rocky IV fashion, but like in Apollo and Rocky fashion, but you still got really good conversations of men overcoming trauma, from Isaiah Bradley to the stuff in Louisiana. And I was impressed that you had that big action scene that opened the episode, and then they table it all for, like you said, this breather, but not just to have a breather of just hokey playing around with filler stuff. It's like you said, it's the penultimate episode to just build up where
the stakes,
the fibers and the stakes of where these guys are coming from for this, whatever will come next. And I love this episode. My favorite for sure.
Yeah.
One thing that we haven't really talked about is something of a critical, there's two critical scenes with John Walker, kind of technically three, because the two are related. One is when he goes to Lamar's family and talks to his parents and straight up lies to their faces about how the person I killed was the person who killed your son. He couldn't even face that. Do we know, was that lady who was not his parents, was that his sister or a wife?
His sister.
His sister. Okay. Because she kind of gave him a look like, I don't believe you. I know you, or something's up. The other scene is when he goes to Washington and he's standing there before the panel.
Scene.
Yeah.
And I was amazed at the restraint, because he's a super soldier now. He starts pounding that podium. I thought for sure he was gonna pound it one last time and like explode, but they didn't. You hear a nice crack, but they don't even show it. You're like, we know what happened. And then he storms out, and then all of a sudden Elaine Benez shows up. David, I'm going to rely on you to tell me about this character, because she has to be someone from the comics.
That was just so random.
That
random,
was
but awesome.
Contessa Valentina Allegro de Fontaine. Her first appearance was in Strange Tales.
That's why you brought it up. Ooh, as in Doctor Strange.
Well, at this point,
is she the beekeeper? Sorry.
At this point in Strange Tales, it was being shared with it was originally Doctor Strange, but this was turning into Doctor Strange in the latter half of the book. But the prominent story was Nick Fury, who used to be part of, Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos. He was now a spy, and Jim Steranko, the great writer-artist, was taking over, and he was turning Nick and his main crew into spies, because that was more hip than being World War veterans. And so this the scene where she debuts in this comic is really weird, but she does introduce herself, Contessa Valentina Allegro de Fontaine. She has definitely a more prominent role later on. That was just the comic she was introduced. And, obviously she's not to be trusted, as we, kind of alluded to in this episode. I initially thought, because she was just going to go by Val, that it might have been Valerie Cooper, who was kind of like a government liaison who formed her own team after the original X-Men formed X Factor. She formed her own X Factor with other mutants.
It sounds like it's really easy to form super powered teams in this universe.
They're looking for work, man. We established in this show that they need money. So.
All I need to go is to go to Vistaprint and get some cheap business cards that don't say anything, and I'm good to go.
Just
Thunderbolts, X-Men, Avengers.
I don't need T-shirts.
Post your resume on LinkedIn.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this goes. Like, is she going to be in the next episode? Or, from here, we saw, as we mentioned, John Walker turning into Iron Man in the post-getting credit scenes, building his own shield. I'm like, wow, dude, did you look that up on YouTube or something, or what?
Yeah.
Right off to the side, there's the YouTube on the laptop.
A blacksmithing miner from boot camp, right?
I love just a quick scene of like him going, what the hell is cosplay? But that would have been great. It'll be interesting to see where this goes, who she's working with or working for.
Yeah, I read.
Yeah,
I read today on, I don't think it was one of the articles you boys sent in the thread, but this cameo was supposed to happen in Black Widow, and
Yes.
he didn't get Black Widow.
Yeah.
So I think this is like, I don't know where Black Widow's going either, but like if that's a female government pawn, that could be a lot of fun.
So are you saying that she is not in Black Widow, or
no, she is, but
Yeah.
like she was going to be a surprise in Black Widow. We never got that surprise in Black Widow. Then here she comes sauntering in here in Winter Soldier.
because we're gonna get Black Widow. So is there gonna be another scene where she saunters in and just like gives someone else a card? It's like the exact same script.
I would imagine she probably has a smaller role in that one.
Yeah.
Smaller than this.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this goes. I was a little disappointed that I guess his wife did have some lines, but it's like I would have liked to have a little bit more, like,
But honey, no.
John, are you okay, John? Or what? I mean, there's no conversation between him and her about the fact that he took the serum, or just the fact that we have an intensely emotional scene with Isaiah Bradley, who has his own PTSD, and then we have this with John Walker, who clearly has PTSD, and not just that, but an anger management problem.
It's not PTSD because it's still going on. He's not post trauma yet.
Yeah. I mean, he's got trauma that he's dealing with from not just Lamar dying, but I think that there's trauma from the war that he was in. And Lamar's definitely haunting him, even in the first few seconds of the episode here, where we hear Lamar saying in his head, you always make great decisions running into battle. And well, that's not how last episode ended. But I think that there's definitely trauma there. There's definitely he's being haunted by what he's done and what he's gone through. And also in that scene when he's addressing the Senate or the board or whatever, it's like, the classic, you made me. This is who you made me. I've done everything you wanted me to do, and now you're just going to throw me out. And, he's not going to have any type of benefits for the rest of his life or pension or anything like that.
Finally, we're still talking about money and like life outside of superhero-dom, I guess he's going to have to get a shrimp boat in Louisiana.
Because essentially this show really isn't about superheroes, it's what is a mantle, what is a legend, what is a symbol, and it's also dealing with some real world things about how Black people were treated and experimented on and worked on. He brings up Isaiah Bradley brings up the Red Tails, and I think I don't know if they directly, I guess they're indirectly alluding to the Tuskegee Airmen, but yeah, so it's dealing with some real world stuff a lot more than I would say maybe any other Marvel movie. I mean, obviously WandaVision is dealing with some real world grief stuff, but I think, again, as I've said before, this is a chance for Disney and Marvel to really, with episodic series, it's a way for them to really delve into some great themes.
Now, help me out with the. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh no, I was just gonna say this is why Disney has always been so good at producing this mammoth property, because they think about the content that's inside of their movies or episodes. Captain America, the Winter Soldier, was about basically the military's usage of drones and how they want to invade anyone they wanted. Captain America didn't believe in that, and they could have made Captain America rah rah go America, but they didn't. He questions his country, making him a true patriot. Because that's what true patriotism is, doing what's best for your people. And they've always focused on that, but they've always focused sort of on the corruption of the government. But here they're taking it on a little more directly. I think because it's a television show and television is a writer's medium, that you are able to sort of flesh out these ideas through longer periods of time, because you don't want to have like a huge sort of blockbuster and you have Isaiah Bradley talking about how, about you wouldn't put that in that movie, but here with television, you could do that. I mean, that was something I learned when I was in LA, that that really television, if this proves that this is a writer's medium, I mean, this is it right here. And they've really just done a beautiful job weaving everything into this episode. I think at the end, when God, I almost called her Elaine. When Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and she
call her
said,
Val.
Yeah. Thank you. When Val said, to John, wait for my call. I think like that's where that's going to go. Like there's going to be a call at the end of the episode, and then it'll transition to Black Widow somehow.
Let me ask this: the continuity, because I don't know if I missed this or if they were just alluded to it, or if I'm just supposed to be such a Marvel fanboy that I could figure that timeline by myself. But I admit I can't. Isaiah Bradley he and his fellow soldiers, they were given that fake tetanus shot, which was really just a booster or an injection of the proto super soldier serum, and it killed like most everybody. And he was the survivor, right? And then he was imprisoned and tortured and experimented on. Very, a parallel track to what the Winter Soldier went through with Hydra. Mm-hmm. Was this after Steve Rogers received that serum? Was this like the continuation of that, but like way underground? And they figured, well, we're not going to do this to any more white kids. We got this whole shadow population over here that we're going to mess with. So was this going on while Steve was on ice, or how does that line up?
This feels very 50s, 60s, post World War II. Yeah. Like if you do the math of what it would take to try to recreate a departed Captain America plus 30 years in prison and some time on the job, that would get him to the 80s, 90s, and aughts, to be out of prison and become an old man in Baltimore, I
mean, that makes sense just because he mentioned that there were different strains of the serum. Mm-hmm. Because the formula for the serum pretty much died when Erskine died. But then they still had to, scrounge up what they could and try and come up with some type of formula or some type of a different strain. Mm-hmm. So, he, as you mentioned, he was the only one that really made it that long. Mm. I mean, that would make sense probably the most. And I know that this super soldier serum obviously makes you age a lot slower. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily like a healing factor, but it's kind of like that.
Because Isaiah Bradley looks like an old man. He doesn't look like he's aged very slowly at all. But I wonder if that's a result of whatever version of the serum he got. Maybe it does. It works differently on different people. Yeah. And when we're saying that he was the one who survived, I have to wonder if he's the only one that he knows of who survived. There could have been other programs going on in other places. I mean, we're talking about the Marvel universe. You're talking about the same government or pseudo-government agencies who are doing the Weapon X program.
Well, I mean, you got Emil Blonsky, like we've gone there with super soldier stuff already. So it's been tainted and used elsewhere.
Yeah, it's just when I think about that, I think back to Captain America, the first Avenger, and what happens when Steve goes on ice, and then he just wakes up in a reality. But there's a whole world of intrigue and weird things going on, and Isaiah Bradley's story is being told in that kind of pocket, off-screen universe. Mm-hmm. And to what you were saying, Mike, about this being a writer's medium, really taking this stuff seriously, thinking about the history and the continuity, not just of the comics, but the movies that they produced, and finding rich material to explore. It's really great stuff to watch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I wonder where, just wondering where, you're going to go with the next one. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. My nephew's screaming like a madman downstairs and it distracted me.
I have to say that, going back to Wyatt Russell's performance, watching him in this episode, he was just so dang good. Mm-hmm. Especially in that, kind of hearing that they had. I'm glad it was just like on the cusp of being like too big or over the top.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really well measured. And I'm glad Wyatt Russell doesn't have any social media handles, because it's just still unbelievable.
It really is. And I guess that's the beauty of effective writing, effective, I'll call it filmmaking, and an effective performance. Is he's the guy everybody loves to hate, but they really need to focus on the love part of that.
Well,
he's just a performer who's doing the best that he can.
The whole hashtag, not my Captain America. It's like, duh, that was the goal.
I know.
Like, they wanted.
I mean, that was like the whole character motivation is like the way we feel. I just imagine like that pressure on John Walker and how like that weighs on him. And then like when he's just like all juiced up on that drug and you have all that, like, someone's going to go nuts. And I'm wondering if they were doing all those experiments. That's where I lost my train of thought because that's like what my nephew, I don't know what he did. He sounds like he pounded a guy's head through a toilet or something. But wow.
Oh boy,
paint that visual.
I'm just thinking of like Batman, Superman with the kitchen sink.
Yeah,
but like if that serum works so well on Steve Rogers, why are they still experimenting? Were they trying to make better versions?
I think they haven't found the right person.
Superman that will conquer the world or something.
They forgot what Dr. Erskine knew all along. Is that and that's what Lamar alluded to in the last episode. Is like it just makes who you are bigger,
And that sounds kind of ethereal is the wrong word, but sort of hippie trippy, kind of a thing to explain to a scientist or a government panel. Like, it really matters the character of the person you're giving it to. I don't care. Just go put some more, F9 formula in it. Yeah. I need soldiers. Yeah. But now we have joining us late in the show, always welcome addition. We have Sajiwa, hey gang, joining from NYC, and a different take from what we've been talking about in the last hour, to say the least. Was kind of bored by most recent app. Mike, are you sure you didn't write this? No, that was from last week. And Falcon Show all together.
You just copied and pasted my reviews.
I think it's where you're at in life. There, you're very busy, and there's a lot going on.
No, for the action junkies who needed super duper ramp up, this was not going to be the episode for them. Totally.
Yeah,
except for that first 10 minutes, that fight scene. Even though I felt like I've seen this in another movie or two, it's still very cool, exciting.
I'm always down for another warehouse fight.
The dustier the better.
Yeah. Now here's before we kind of wrap up, because I think we're coming towards the end, but Zemo, when he's in Sokovia, right before he gets arrested, he's looking at a monument. Is that his family?
No, that's the memorial that he was talking about before. He's like, have you visited the memorial? No, we haven't gotten a chance to. That's what they talked about last episode, so there he was.
Yeah.
Right, but okay, it was a memorial. Was it a memorial to Sokovia? Because
the whole island that got picked up in Age of Ultron, right? Well, not island, but
where was Zemo from?
Sokovia.
Yeah, so he was Sokovian, but he was like royalty, right? So I saw a man, a woman, and 2 kids, and I thought maybe that was like a monument to his family because they were killed, right?
I think it's just representing an average family who were affected by the island in the sky.
Okay. Well, maybe that is his family. I mean, who says, "Hey, you go check out the memorial"? Huh? Maybe see someone familiar up there? Not to toot my own horn, but my family died. Okay, so let's check out another comment.
Here we go.
Georges Batroc. I gotta pronounce it all France. Returns. Last we saw him, he was wearing a serious gliding suit. Okay, there you go. Couldn't understand.
That's the only issue with the show.
Well, it's.
I'm sitting here wondering about frequent flyer miles, and you're thinking about
Joe. Yeah.
In fairness, I wondered the same thing. Like, how did he get out of that crash? Because I swore I saw him die, but
squirrel suit.
Don't.
He watched a lot of Point Break, Joe.
Yeah.
Point Break was Batroc's favorite movie. Maybe even the remake. I don't know.
Okay, now look, Sajiwa, now you're just trolling.
You're not wrong.
What?
How they interact? Not that great, baby. It is the director's fault.
You don't, David. You don't like the chemistry between.
No,
come on, man.
I like the chemistry and they're great, but I've said all along that, hey, Mackie and Stan, they're great together. But who've been the standout, characters in the show? It winds up being like Zemo winds up being Isaiah Bradley.
Yeah.
It's like all these other characters.
That's true. Yeah.
So like they are good, sure. But I think this episode, when they're having those conversations, it was finally like the defenses were down, and they were really having a good heart to heart as they were like sharing the shield. It was like so cute, right? Well, speaking of cute, on the set when they were filming this show was called Bromance. Not
was that their Rory's last kiss title?
Yeah, that was their secret. It's called Bromance, but but the show is much better than Vanquish.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up.
I have not seen it.
Ian and I both really like the directors, so just chill out there.
Yes, and since I was pimping everyone's stuff, I will mention that both David and I did have a chance to talk to George Gallo, writer of Bad Boys and Midnight Run, who also made the new Ruby Rose vehicle, which unfortunately broke down on the way to being good, called Vanquish, now in select theaters and on demand Tuesday. But yeah, definitely check out David's written interview with George, and you can also check out my video interview on the same channel.
There you go.
Nice.
The interest in the movie seems to be about on par with the interest in my my interview, because it's like one person's watched it, and David, I think that was you.
Pretty much.
Yeah, so it was good times. But yes, this show is much better than Vanquish or the Vanquish reviews. Lord. But okay, any final thoughts before we head off into episode 6 next week?
Man, I hope Joe's right, and that the last episode is the longest. I'm wondering if it's also going to have a stinger. I forget. Did the last episode of WandaVision? They had the stinger, 2 of them. That's right. The one in the lake where she's reading evil.
Yeah, reading evil. Yeah, I like that. Yes.
And then the one in the theater with Monica Rambeau.
That's right. That's right.
The scroll thing. Yeah.
Secret invasion. So they could have 2 here. I mean, who knows where it's going to. The big question to me is that I can understand them not announcing WandaVision season 2. I don't want a WandaVision season 2.
Me neither.
I'm really wondering, like, if he becomes Captain America at the end of this, or if he puts on a suit. Are they going to have a season 2 but call it Captain America and Winter Soldier?
Wow.
That'd be bold.
It would be, and I would love that. Now, here's my question, because I don't know if maybe you guys know this or if they've revealed this information, because Loki's coming out like right after this, right? Isn't that the next one?
Yeah.
Is it June? Yeah.
June.
Oh, so we got a bit of a gap. When is What If come out?
July.
Okay.
August. Well, we could watch Jupiter's Legacy too. So.
I dropped you guys the MODOK series on
Hulu.
I know.
Well, but I guess my question is how this will tie into that, if at all. Is Loki going to happen in its own kind of pocket thing, or will there be repercussions from this series that leads into that?
I think WandaVision showed us that we're just watching different pockets, because what they plugged into had nothing to do with what we just watched. Now, I know it was meant to come after this one, but even still, I don't think I think you're going to get a pocket.
It would really be good to have this one-off kind of limited series.
I mean, unless I'm trying to think where this won't go to Black Widow because it's a prequel, other than just whatever we got with Val, and then you got Wakanda covered. This isn't going to go to Black Panther 2. There's not a Doctor Strange angle that comes out of these characters. I think you get a pocket. I think you get where these characters will kind of hang and be between now and the next thing.
If anything, Loki could bleed into Eternals somewhere, or just hint at it. Because you're playing with time, and Eternals have been around forever, hence the name.
Well, I mean, I gotta say, even if this doesn't link up with the continuity of the other shows or the movies directly, I would love to just see a season 2 of them going on, another big adventure, or hell, I wonder if Disney's going to start experimenting with. I know we're just coming out of COVID, so they're trying to figure out the roadmap. But what about a regular, just like 13 or 26 episode TV show instead of these like limited series with Falcon and Winter Soldier? That could be your weekly buddy cop show. And to Sajiwa's point here, which I agree with, this is not a troll. A comedy about making one of these superhero shows might be fun or good. I think that's kind of untapped potential. That'd be really cool.
Depends who's in it, who's writing it.
Yeah, it all depends. Yeah, a DC version of that show, I don't know that I'd watch. Yes, I'm throwing shade. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for hanging out on Friday. I'm bummed that Loki, we're gonna have to wait 6 weeks after this series finishes. What are we gonna do on Friday nights? We got to find something to talk about.
I'm sure my wife would love to have me back on Friday night. Yeah.
Fine. Okay. You'll get a late spring break, and then you're mine for the summer.
You're doing that podcast again tonight?
You're doing that thing.
Yeah. Mine too.
Families. No, anyway, but thanks, guys. I really appreciate you hanging out again, spending your Fridays with me. Thanks to those who are watching and those who will watch when the live version is not live. So once again, joining me is David Fowley of Keeping It Real, Don Shanahan of 25 Years Later, Every Movie Has a Lesson, and Cinephile Hissy Fit, Mike Crowley of You'll Probably Agree. We've got Sajiwa in the chat, and Joe also. We've got E-Man from E-Man's Movie Reviews, could not join us tonight, but again, sign the recast T'Challa petition. The link will be in the description. And Mark, the Movie Man, you're going to be up for like 3 days doing trivia. Good luck, Godspeed, and be ready for our Missing in Action 3 podcast on Monday. I don't know if you'll be coherent, but yeah, I'm pulling for you. Anyway, thanks, guys. Take care. Oh, if you're watching this, whatever point, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, kicking the seat. That's what we're here for. So thank you. Good night. And episode 6 next week. Yay! Too much excitement to take. And I'm ending it.